Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakat, Kwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations, looking at the other nations who receive this word. Shalom to you. Okay, today I'm back on the topic of Revelation chapter 13, the MOTB. We're waiting for this major prophecy to take place very soon, and it's going to be a great time of temptation, followed by a great judgment. And so we're on the lookout for this next prophecy, and we're constantly looking at the developments and trying to scope how long it is until we see this next prophecy come to pass. We know we're in the time at the minute, between 2020 and 2030, a time frame within which the WEF have announced that they will try to make this change, this digitization of the worldwide economy, introducing the prophecy of the MOTB, Revelation chapter 13. And so today I've got a document here from the United Nations. This is specifically from the United Nations Development Programme, Digital Strategy 2022 to 2025. Now we know that the UN are part of NATO, which ultimately makes them, quite a high level voice of the beast themselves. But before we jump into that, looking at Matthew chapter 24, this is Yahushua speaking unto the disciples. It says here, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So, only Yahweh knows the day of the Lord and when that will actually be. How Yahweh Shai is waiting on his word to make that entrance and to bring about the day of the Lord. But, just before that, we have the Edomites being used by Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, to prepare the great time of temptation, which is the MOTB that's happening at the minute. Once that this particular prophecy takes place, we have a time called Jacob's trouble, we have a thing called World War III, and then we have the day of the Lord, and all these things will happen very quickly within a short space of time. Once the MOTB is made mandatory and the prophecy has come to pass, fully complete, between that point and the return of the Lord, and it will be, great judgment, a time like never been seen on the face of this earth, all around this earth, for everybody on this planet. But we know that time will be short in between those two particular points. So at the minute, we're looking forward to that prophecy of the MOTB being made mandatory. Now, bearing in mind what Yahweh Shai said to the disciples here, of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So, in the previous video, I went into the fact that these Edomites, these banking elites, are being very coy and playing the situation by ear as to when to introduce this MOTB. Ultimately, it will be Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, that puts the spirit on them to make that happen. So, all these events, the timeline of these next particular prophecies, it's all in the hands of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. So, we're not going to be able to work out the date or the hour, the specifics, which particular season Yahweh Shai is coming back in. Will it be spring, summertime, winter, 2023, 24, 25? We don't know. But, we can, knowing the prophecies, knowing the details, we can have a good understanding, idea of how close we are. Don't forget, when you go up a little bit further in Matthew chapter 24, you have the parable of the fig tree. It says, now learn a parable of the fig tree. This is Matthew 24 and 32. It's when his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know it is near, even at the doors, the day of the Lord. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So, the same way we know summer's on its way, we should know that the destruction is on its way, the MOTB, and the great time of judgment just before the day of the Lord. We don't know the day or the hour, so therefore we have to keep watching and praying. And when you type into the blue letter, you type in the phrase "watch," therefore, you'll come up with many other precepts. Matthew 24:42, Matthew 25:13. Got Mark 13:35. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning. Matthew 21:36, Acts 20:31. Now this is Apostle Paul speaking to the elders of Ephesus. It says, therefore watch and remember that by the space of 3 years I cease not to warn every one night and day with tears. This is Paul speaking of his teachings and the fact he went out and spread this word and gave this message out. First Thessalonians 5:6, therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And First Peter 4:7, but the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto pray. So we know not what day or hour the Lord is coming, yet we should be watching and having an idea, a good idea. The more of a clearer picture you have in your mind of the prophecies and how they're due to play out, and that will be given to you by the Holy Spirit, and that allows you to see how close we are to that time. Finally, this is Revelation 3:3. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So these people out here who don't know this truth, who don't have this understanding, the people of the other nations as well as the Israelites that don't take on board this understanding of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, even Israelites that are following false teachers that are giving them false breakdowns, because they're getting the false breakdowns and the false understanding. They're unaware of how close we are to the day of the Lord, and that's why you notice a lot of other camps out there, they're not really going into the destruction. They don't talk about it on a constant level because they're not really warning of that. They're more playing the part of trying to help their followers get along in this particular society, whereas we should be watching for the end of this particular society and excited for the birth of our own kingdom, our own empire, which is right around the corner. But if you don't watch, then Yahweh Shai will come upon you as a thief, and he'll rob you of your spirit and your soul. So even though we don't know the day or the hour, we should be watching, and we should be having a good idea of how close we are to the day of the Lord. Again, I've got this article, this document. I keep saying article. It's actually a document directly from the United Nations Development Programme. This is something to watch. And before I jump into that, this is all relating to the prophecy of Revelation 13 and 16, the MOTB. We have at the bottom here, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. So everybody on earth, he being the powers that be at the minute, this particular beast spoken of in this chapter, says to receive an incision in their dominant hand or in their metapon or in their foreheads, into their thoughts, into their understanding, into their cognitive mind. It says here, and that no man might buy or sell, say he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So we're looking out for this particular thing, this chip, which should be offered to us, and we will be told that we need to have this under our skin in order to participate in society. We've already seen the WEF making these particular announcements, so we know we're getting close. And I mentioned, from now on you're going to see these things pushed on a larger scale and given out there to the middle classes, because they ultimately they need to get this message across. So with that, you'll start to see them put the feelers out, it's banking elites, and by putting messages out there and making it plain and clear. From now on, you're going to see these banking elites talk less in riddles and more in straightforward fashion when it comes to this MOTB. Just like they told us a few weeks ago through the WEF that we will have to have something under our skin to participate in society. So that is them being straight down the line and honest with society. And slowly you're going to see that more and more, reaching up until the point in which they make it mandatory. So, this beast system, and if you don't know, if you're new to this beast will be the one that's offering you this particular change, this technology. And when you go to Revelation chapter 13, it speaks of this particular beast. And the beast represents the ancient Roman Empire. And so, when you read through the chapter, I'm not going to go through the whole chapter, but it speaks of this ancient Roman Empire, which was at one point wounded. And this is what is known in history as the Dark Ages. And then there was a revival of this ancient Roman Empire, known as the Renaissance period. And so when you read through this chapter, it tells you that this beast has a rebirth. And when you reading from Revelation chapter 13 and 11 onwards, it says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed." So this deadly wound to this first beast was the ancient Roman Empire and the Edomites falling away out of power. And then when you look back in history, you have a period called the Dark Ages, within which so-called black people, Israelites, will rule in Europe. And then at the end of this particular 1,000-year period, roughly around 500 years ago, you had the rebirth of the Edomites, and they pretty much rose back into power and reassumed control. And then with that, they gave rebirth to this Roman Empire, this ancient Roman Empire. So all the philosophies and the way the culture is built today is pretty much based around the ancient Roman Empire, as well as things mixed in from the ancient Egyptian Empire or the ancient Babylonian Empire or the ancient Greek Empire. And so, we're living under that particular beast at the minute. And that is the same beast that will eventually tell you to take this particular thing under your skin in order to participate in society. Now, again, like I mentioned a minute ago, if you have a teacher that teaches you who the beast is in a false manner, then how will then that teacher then go on to teach you what its particular mark is? So you have to get the beast correct in order to understand what its mark is. And you have these false teachers out here that are way off when it comes to breaking down what the mark is. Yet when you take it further back slightly, their breakdown on who the beast is completely wrong. So it could never be right. So understanding who the beast is very important in this time where we're supposed to be watching. We're trying to work out how long it is until we see Yahweh's return. So seeing a document from the United Nations, their development program, this is the beast speaking directly. And this document hasn't come via some particular media source. It's not broken down and edited and it's not given to you in somebody else's language or point of view. This is a direct document from their website, the United Nations Development Programme, Digital Strategy 2022 to 2025. And I will leave the link in the description box for you. And it's quite a long document. You know, the UN are always looking into the future. They're looking into wars around the world. They're looking into poverty and all different types of humanitarian crisis, as well as the way the world develops. So, you know, they will have these particular meetings, and they will announce what they've been looking at and how they project the future to be. And so this document, it's not brand new. You might have actually come across this document yourself before, but this was from a meeting that they had in February 22. I've just come across it myself today. But this is roughly about a year and a half ago. And this is from February 2022. This is the thoughts of the United Nations, the beast, speaking to you about this digital change, about the mark, and where they see things going in the next 3 years. Now, bearing in mind, you know, the true prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai have been warning you of this change coming very soon. And, you know, I think it was about 6 months ago, I did bring up an article in which it, you know, and the Small Hats made an announcement that they would probably have to attack Iran within the next 3 years, because if they don't, Iran will be attacking them, you know, with an ICBM. You know, whether that's true or not, we don't know. But that was the messages coming out from the Small Hats, and so I did make it clear at the beginning of the year that, you know, that gives you 2023, 2024, 2025, and then by the end of that you have 3 years. So there may be no need to buy your 2026 calendar. And we're very close. You know, we don't know the date or the hour, but because we're watching and we have our eyes tuned, our spiritual eyes, you know, we understand that we're very, very close. So we understand what we're in that time. It could be, you know, I don't think it will be this year, but it could be sometime in 2024, sometime in 2025, early 2025. And this particular document is very handy when it comes to backing up that thought process. Like I say, this is speaking directly from the beasts themselves. This is the UN, who are officially a part of NATO and EU being the powers that make up the beast. When you look at America, Babylon the Great, spoken of in the scriptures as the whore, that is the whore that rides the beast, rides that beast system, NATO and EU. And with that, they manipulate sanctions, worldwide affairs, so on and so forth, geopolitical scene, and they assume power, these Edomites. You know, the beast system has its religious section in Rome and the financial section in England, and the military section in Babylon the Great, and they come in the form of NATO, and then you have obviously the EU to join them, and then with that the UN is part of NATO. So this is the beast speaking themselves. So reading here, it says, we define digital as an ever-evolving range of technologies like mobile technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, Internet of Things, and robotics, to name a few, that impact nearly all aspects of our world. A mindset which translates into a new way of working that enables people to and institutions to innovate with technology. And so, you know, what you have here, you have this, like I say, you have this document that's been produced, and this is based on the meeting that they had in 2022, and, you know, the things that they spoke of and the way they came together, and they constructed a set of ideas of the way in which they expect the world to be developing in the next 3 years. Now, like I say, you know, in that with they spoke of war, poverty, and other types of humanitarian crisis, and one of them was the digital evolution. So you now have this particular document, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm just pretty much going to show you the the main facts that you need to know. And like I say, I'll leave the link in the description box. So starting here, this is Akim Steiner. This is Administrator, United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and he's come out with a statement at the beginning of this document. And what he's pretty much saying is the situation that happened in 2020 and 2021 had a major effect on the world. In this opening statement, he's pretty much making the point that having a thing of being able to go online pretty much saved the day. People were able to work from home, people were able to study from home. But so on one hand, this was a great thing, having this technology, the internet, and so on and so forth, and especially in a time of crisis like 2020 and 21. But what he also goes on to mention is that there were, I think he mentions here, 2.9 billion people still offline. You have to understand, I'm going to read it in a certain particular way as to avoid saying certain particular words. It says here, the situation in 2020 and 2021 has highlighted how digital connectivity is fast becoming the global metric of inclusion and exclusion, with 2.9 billion people still offline. The digital divide, notably the lack of affordable broadband internet and appropriate digital skills, have prevented many people, especially the most vulnerable, from working or studying from home during the crisis. Remarkably, 1 in 3 children missed out on remote learning, and in countries with low human development, disproportionately affected. Notably, the digital divide is also harmful to civil society and activists. Trapped offline, the ability to advocate for change is key in key areas like climate action is stifled. It says, yet that situation in 2020 and 2021 also determined the incredible power of digital technology. From Honduras to Nigeria, the United Nations assisted countries to leverage the potential of digital finance to support critical electronic cash transfer programs. So pretty much, what he's saying is, there was a situation in 2020 and 2021, and it was great being online. We did these amazing things and we kept the world moving, but a lot of people were cut out because they couldn't get online. It wasn't affordable to them. So, this is something that the beast is saying to you in 2022. I'm here reading this to you in 2023. The prophets, the true prophets of Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, have been saying this since 2020. When the situation hit in 2020, 2021, we told you not to deal with it, not to go ahead with it, just to ignore it, ignore the propaganda that they're pushing to you. We said that they're trying to make changes to you psychologically and prepare the population, like predictive programming. And this is it. Now you're seeing the result of that. The beasts themselves are saying, oh wow, we had this scenario which happened to coincide with the beginning of this great reset, 2020 and 2030. What a coincidence. And we had this great crisis for 2 years, and now we're going to have to make changes. This is order out of chaos. So you can see where it's going. But like I say, bearing in mind, we gave you this message 2 years before the beast here has come out and said it. And it says, with this new 20 to 25 digital strategy, UNDP aims to get ahead to the ever-evolving digital reality, equipped with the knowledge and tools to support our partners at this time of rapid change. For instance, digital technology can advance democracy and human rights by boosting civic engagement, political participation, and social accountability. So, Revelation chapter 13, just jump back to it real quickly. This is and I beheld, this is 13 and 11, the revival of the Roman Empire. It says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So this represents the political system. And the political system says it has 2 horns like a lamb. So these are the 2 parties, the 2 main parties, wherever you are, you vote between. And they come across as lambs. things that are not harmful to you, things that can be for your benefit. But they ultimately speak as dragons because, the two political parties go back, connected, going back to the same beast with the same objective. It's just they give it you two sides of the coin to make you think you have a choice. And when they officially lay down their laws, this is them speaking as dragons. And in that time of Jacob's trouble, of the MOTB, you're going to see them speaking very much as a dragon. That's why they come out last week, 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago, to say eventually everybody will need this chip under their skin to participate in society. This is them speaking as a dragon. But yet not the whole world is paying attention. Eventually they're going to make this message clear and everybody's going to find out. So jumping back to the article. So, pretty much, like I say, I'll leave the link in the description box for you. It talks about a lot of different things, their visions, their objectives, and so on and so forth, guiding principles and value proposition. This is all to do with technology, digital technology. And the main point I want to make, if we jump down, actually, before I do that, again, this graph here, this tells you what they're expecting. You look in the middle, inclusive, whole of society, digital transformation, that's in the middle. And then just outside of that, you have foundational digital catalysts. And you have things like people, the colored circles, blue, green, red, yellow. You have people, infrastructure, government, regulation, and business. These are the things that they're expecting to see a change in digital in these areas. And so, you've got business, governmental, people, regulation, infrastructure. This all boils down to money. Money is a massive part of this. And you look on around the outside, obviously, the very last outer circle, you've got all types of things they're expecting to be involved in this. Starting in the red at the bottom here, ethical standards, cybersecurity, fair market competition, e-commerce, data standards and protection, capabilities monitoring, leadership and coordination, funding and procurement, digital public services, so on and so forth. So, all these things, in the blue here, you've got usage and ownership, digital well-being, because they're bang on everybody's digital well-being, especially if you're part of the alphabet crew. And so these are the things that they're looking at. And this is, you've seen things like this before, the Internet of Things, and the type of things they want to connect to it. And this is just giving you a clear picture here. And again, don't forget, this is the UN, the United Nations. The beast are speaking to you directly. They're not in a time where they're going to dress it up and put it to you nicely anymore. They're just telling you how it is and how straight it is. And just like, previously I've gone to the other article on the .gov website, the UK government website, and we've seen things about human augmentation. These type of things blow the idea of conspiracy theory out of the water because this is the people themselves saying it directly. How can somebody say to you that this is a conspiracy theory? Because the United Nations have got this up on their webpage. This is what they're expecting to happen between the next 3 years, 2022, 23, 24, 25. Now, this is the point I wanted to get to. See, digital maturity progression in United Nations Development Programme. So this is what they're foreseeing when it comes to the digital maturity, because we want it to be mature and we want the MOTB to be made mandatory and we want to get out of it. In the blue there, it says Chief Digital Office. The Chief Digital Office helps to accelerate the digital transformation by focusing on strategic transformation topics, execution, and providing critical capabilities at the beginning. With a growing digital maturity, the Bureau and county offices begin to drive most digital execution, with the Chief Digital Office having a supportive role. And so, they go into, like, you look here, for example, starting at 2019 to 2021. And these are changes that have been happening up until now. And what's interesting is when you go to the end, to the target state, and so again, you're remembering we're in 2023, and this is what the UN, the beast, have announced in 2022, last year. They've announced that by 2025, they have a target state, and that is called embedded. When you read through the yellow box, they pretty much expect this digital infrastructure, the diagram that we're just looking at the top, with e-commerce and finance and everything else, they expect through evolution of the system, they expect it to be embedded in society by 2025. So, we could have the MOTB made mandatory late 24, early 25. This is a projection, this 2025. So this could happen a little bit sooner than they thought, or it could take a little bit longer than they thought. It could happen 6 months into 2025. And don't forget, previously I've brought out information, and I'm sure others have too, that the situation in 2021 and 2020 and 2021, they have a repeat of that apparently planned for 2025. And that was spelled SERS, I believe that, or something like that. So, don't be surprised if we get to 2025 and you see the same scenario as in 2020 and 2021 hit again. And by that time, they've got the digital infrastructure ready. They've got everybody's minds prepared, and they might make it mandatory. I have said before, if you're going to give yourself 10 years to complete a project, 2020 to 2030, the Great Reset, they're not going to wait till 2029, December the 31st, to make sure everything's set up and made mandatory. If you give yourself a 10-year target, you're going to try and hit the point at which you chip everybody halfway. And so because this is a big operation, you've got to hit 8 billion plus people around the world. So we've told you, the things that they've been doing since 2020 and 21. They've manipulated your mind, getting people used to going online and paying for things without cash. And by 2025, they could bring that situation in again. And this time they could say, well, look, you need to everybody needs to go online. And like I say, I've said before, if you need to hit that point, but by 2025, because then it gives you a few years after that to clean up any gremlins, any things that have slightly gone wrong and not worked out so well. So, you want to aim to be chipping everybody by 2025. If your time for doing it is 2020 to 2030, you need to hit it halfway. In the second half, you can clean up the system. You realize, we thought it would work like this, but it hasn't, and things will get moved around and shifted. So, Lord willing, hopefully we're out of here soon. But like I say, the United Nations, the beast, are expecting digital infrastructure to be embedded all around the world by 2025. Reading in this box here, so digital execution is fully distributed and embedded throughout the organization, including country offices. And you got to remember what the United Nations are there for. They're there to help these nations as a go-between, if you like, almost like a police force. You have obviously NATO and as a military power, but the United Nations go to places and they make sure everybody's doing things according to their law, and according doing it in what they seem as a legitimate way. So they will look at smaller countries and they will help to develop them, as it's explained earlier in the document. They'll help smaller countries to develop themselves and get in contact with other countries and work on this basis of this digital execution, and they will help to the word is to to standardize things and to make things work across the board, whichever border you were to go across. And if you like, they are a police force that are behind border lines in individual countries. So they are like, your UN member in your particular nation is a member of the beast in your nation. And don't forget, like we explained, when these governments pull these things like they did in 2020 and 21, they pretty much received the memo. And the memo, more than likely could come from the United Nations member or, anyone else along the line. So reading on here, it says digital is at the core of planning and execution across all countries and functional areas, including programmatic and operational issues. And don't forget, we've told you before that this digital system, you can't participate in society without having a chip under your skin, and that will allow you to participate in a digital fashion to be part of society, and it will be programmed. So if you're due to receive government benefits, then it will be programmed to be transferred into your account or whatever it is, and so on and so forth. You might have a certain level of access due to social credit score or due to how much money you've got, and that will then determine whether you're allowed access into particular buildings. And so this is all comes down to the programming of that chip, and this is what it comes back down to total control. If you're not authorized to go in a particular building, then your chip will just not allow you to. The chief and what the UN are expecting, it says here, digital is at the core of planning and execution across all countries. So everything they do and plan and execute has to be based around the digital system and functional areas, including programmatic and operational issues. And the Chief Digital Office fully transitions to a digital hub center of excellence that is integrated in organization, a focus on the thought leadership, policy, and practice support in specific areas, coordinating best practice exchange, scaling of digital solutions, horizon scanning, and partnerships. New trends, technologies, or flagship innovations may require a corporate approach or leadership adoption within the organization. So that they themselves obviously have to move forward and develop and make sure that their offices in these particular countries behind these borderlines, part of the UN, they have to make sure that they're up and running and functional on a digital basis, because they're expecting the nations to be up and running. And like it says, so they're expecting digital to be at the core of planning and execution across all countries and functional areas by 2025. So this is another diagram here. So the Chief Digital Office will undertake horizon scanning, strategic foresight, and the development of new digital approaches as part of cross-cutting digital offers, collaborating with the Bureau to ensure maximum organization agility in anticipating new trends. There will be need for work across multiple horizons, spanning from now to the near future to the far future. And so this is another graph, current transformation efforts, IT data culture capability. This is what they're looking into now. And in the near future, they're looking at a second horizon and a third horizon of this digital change. Second horizon is digital X scale accelerator labs, strategic innovation, and it says at the bottom incremental adjustments. And then the far future third horizon, foresight and frontier technology, research and thought leadership, emerging paradigms, ideas and innovations. So like I say, they want to make this change, and it's a huge change. And then eventually, it's not going to just change and hit the ground running and be perfect. So they want it to happen, and then they think, they're planning that in the future they're going to have to develop things and see how it's running, and new paradigms will be opened up within this digital lifestyle. So ultimately there will be more changes that they will have to make to society. So they're going to want to get this chipping done very soon, because without that, the ball's not really rolling. And so, like I say, this is the beast system, and they're expecting the world to be fully operational on a digital basis by 2025. I mean, again, these are end notes. This is like about 28 pages. So the beast system, the one that is going to implement this mark, are talking directly in this particular document, and they're giving you their strategy for this digital takeover for the next 3 years, and they're expecting by 2025 all countries around the world to be fully functional, up and running on this digital technology. So that could be the year we see the MOTB. It could be 6 months before, back end of 2024. We don't know what date or hour Yahushua will come, but, through the Holy Spirit, through the understanding that we get, through understanding the prophecies and the scriptures, and keeping a watch and praying, we have a good idea. Like I say, I brought out the article before, where we could really be expecting World War III by the back end of 2025 at the very latest. And don't forget the small hats, according to prophecy, are due to make that happen. And don't forget, there's people been out here who've been calling for World War III ever since Russia invaded Ukraine. Now that was a year and a half ago, but yet there's still no World War III. So there's wars and rumors of wars, and people get excited, but not until this digital transformation takes place. The beast is going to make you take that chip, or try to, or manipulate you, make it tempting for you. So I hope that's edifying, and I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.